好，大家好，谢谢大家还是留在线上哦。我们现在参加的人数有309位。那第三场，那我们将要邀请到的是香港理工大学包玉刚图书馆学术资源的副馆长谢佳燕女士就是 Janice CHIA。那OK。那Janice 她在香港理工大学图书馆透过研究资源跟使用者经验与推广，跟馆藏发展、管理等等，进行学术方面的学习图书馆的研究服务等等的规划。那也促进了这个所谓的学科馆员跟其他团队之间的合作。那在大学的社群中不断的推动有关研究跟学习中所需要的图书馆使用者的一个有品质的图书馆服务。那在加入香港理工大学之前，那 Janice 她曾经服务在新加坡南洋理工大学长达5年的时间，所以对于学术传播跟教育服务有非常丰富的经验。那 Janice 今天将分享就是有关于面对研究出版伦理的实务的一些分享。那演讲会用英文的方式进行，那因为简报上备有中文的翻译，那所以请大家仔细聆听。有请 Janice。
Hi, thank you. 谢谢。谢谢的。
You are on. Okay, please move on.
I'm okay. 谢谢。Thank you for this invitation. 虽然我的国语不是说的很好，可以去夜市买东西，可是做 formal presentation 呢就避免了。所以今天呢，我就会用英文来做一个很简单的 sharing， 希望你们会觉得这个是 something useful to all of you. So thank you for this invitation. I have learned a lot from the presentations of Prof Chen and Dr. Pan from the researcher's point of view. So today I hope to give you a little bit of an insight as to what the library is doing to support our researchers in terms of publication, in terms of publication support. So yeah, so just give me a minute. Okay, so just a bit of an introduction on PolyU, or 香港理工大学. We call PolyU in short. It is one of the 8 university grants committee-funded universities in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, we have 8 of such universities, and PolyU is probably the 3rd largest. It was first established in 1937 as a government trade school, focusing mainly on skills, engineering skills. And in 1994, it became a full-fledged university. So this year, we are celebrating our 85th anniversary. The school focuses strongly on science, engineering, and technology, and research these days focus on how these disciplines intertwine. So how do they connect? How do they intertwine with each other? There are a total of 8 faculties in school. We have more than 27,000 students with over 5,000 staff, and half of them being academic and teaching and research staff. So you can see that our university is actually a very research-intensive university. Let's see. Okay. This is just a bit of an overview about how PolyU is performing in terms of rankings. Rankings is very important to our university, as you can tell. They publish this, and you can see that our university is also very strong in engineering, especially like, architecture and built environment and civil and structural engineering. We are also very strong in hospitality and art and design, because in Hong Kong, we are the only school, the university that has these in our faculty. You can also see in Shanghai Jiao Tong's global ranking, hospitality is there again, and then civil engineering. For THE, business engineering, computer science. So you can see that, these are very strong subjects in the university, and our research is very focused in this area. Okay. A bit of an introduction about the library. The library has 150 full-time staff with 26 professional librarians. Under the university librarian, we have 4 big departments, of which one of them is academic support. And just a very quick overview about our library collections. Even though we have more than 5 million total library holdings, a majority of them are already electronic. As you can see from here, our ebooks are already more than 3 million. We have gone e-preferred, so whatever that we buy now would be e-preferred. Prints, we don't go for it unless we have no choice, but we definitely want to go e-preferred. And this is even way before the pandemic started. That's because, space constraint is a very big problem in Hong Kong. And we want to keep the space as much as we can for our students to use them for discussions, for studying. So a lot of the space has been converted from shelf space to user space. So this is just an overview about our library. An introduction about the academic support team that I manage. It consists of a couple of smaller teams, of which one is research support. There is also the user engagement and outreach. There is collection development and another small team of that works on outstanding work by students and open educational resources. So the reason why all these teams are under the academic support section is really that we hope that there will be a synergy between the faculty librarians and these different teams so that we can deliver quality library services that is attuned to the evolving research and learning needs of the university. The research needs and the learning needs of the university is fast changing, as we can see with the pandemic and also with all the different things that are happening around the world. And so by having these teams under us, we can very quickly try to change and tune our services as much as possible. That would make it more efficient, that would make it more relevant to our users. And about the research support section, this is the section that does a lot of what we call as publishing support for our authors. It supports PolyU researchers at all levels. So we've got the junior researchers, such as the undergraduate students. We've got experienced researchers, like maybe the faculty staff or even more experienced postdoctoral staff. What we want to do is to help them to better understand the research process and to gain easy access to information that they need for their research needs. We use the research cycle to show the different steps needed to plan, conduct, communicate their research. And we understand that different levels of researchers require different levels of skills and to help them achieve their goals. For example, research done by undergraduate students would be very different from the research done by postgraduate students. This is what we call as the research cycle that we use all the time. This research cycle is very useful for us to map out what are the kinds of research skills and how it would map against, for example, the different kinds of researchers and what they will need. So for example, if you can see here, the undergraduate students would require some basic skills, like for example, knowing how to develop a research question, conducting a research literature review, to even down to presenting and showcase their research outputs. They may not need to publish in a journal or present in a poster, but they would definitely need to know how to showcase their research outputs in a video, for example. These days, especially, video is very important. And then you've got the intermediate, which is where you have the third year or the final year students and what we call as the taught postgraduate students. So they are very different from the research postgraduate student. They mainly will have a final year project or a thesis versus having to publish in a journal. So what their skills will need will probably be, being able to write a research proposal in addition to the basic skills. And finally, the advanced skills will be needed by the research postgraduate students, and mainly it will involve things such as research projects and publishing needs, like journal publishing. So in addition to all these, they may need to even know how to write a data management plan, reuse copyright materials in their research, and even down to publish publicizing their work, like, for example, sharing their research data, monitoring their research impact. So this map is very useful for librarians for us to communicate and map out our workshops and how we conduct our workshops for the different levels of researchers. So yeah, and you can access the guides here. Yeah. And what do we do to support our authors in terms of academic publishing? We understand that different levels of research requires different skills. So therefore, different researchers would also have different kinds of publishing aims. And we hope that we can aim to equip them with the information and the skills that they need to be able to help them to decide where they want to publish. So we receive a lot of inquiry from our users via different channels. There are the reference channels, which is an email to our main mailbox. We receive them via faculty librarians too, via emails. We also receive inquiries from our workshops that we conduct. We also organize publishing seminars by editors like, from ACS, Springer Nature, talking about how to submit, how to get a manuscript accepted, what are some of the things that they need to take care of. We do a lot of online guides. These online guides really allow our users to be able to get access to such information very quickly on their own. And even when we are doing inquiries or when we respond to their questions, we tend to use these guides to help them as well. And also consultation with faculty members. So we do have students who come to us and say, I don't know if this journal is okay, or like, what are the different tools for me to decide which journal for me to publish in. So sometimes consultation with faculty librarians allow us to guide them through these tools if they did not join our workshops, for example. So this is what we do to support the authors. So just to give you some examples on the workshops that we do, these workshops will help them to get an idea of the different tools that are available out there. And most of these workshops target the new research postgraduate students. They have just started out. They do not know what are some of the things that they can use out there to evaluate journals. They have not started publishing. They are going to try to start publishing. So they need to know these kind of tools. So one of the first workshops that I think is very important is to understand the differences between Web of Science and Scopus. So this workshop on citation database is very important. We try not to focus so much on research impact here, but more so to be able to understand the difference between these two databases, to find seminal works or very important works based on a topic or an author. This will allow them to discover more, like, for example, be able to pick out key authors, key publications, key journals in a particular topic. So all of these things are very important to them. How are they going to use the information here really depends on where they want to take it to. So the possibilities are endless, and we just want to give them this kind of ability and to know that they have these tools to help them. The other workshop that we do is using journal analyzing tools to evaluate journals. This is to address a lot of their concerns. How do I know which journal is better? For example, my department has this journal in band A, band B. How do I know which journal is in band A and band B? So sometimes we get these questions, and we always try and tell them, you should also look at journal analyzing tools like impact factor, understanding what is impact factor, what are some alternative metrics that you can use to evaluate and rank the journals, right? So this is again another workshop that we do. Another workshop that we do is essential science indicators to analyze research performance. And it's not just research performance, but also to look at journals to determine research output and the impact in specific fields. For very, very experienced researchers, they could even identify specific fields that they want to excel in and they want to focus in and zoom in. And they can even identify that kind of journals that they're going to publish in to allow them to have greater impact, and they could even do that to even get themselves maybe even becoming highly cited in a specific field. So I think, again, the possibilities are endless. It's about how they can use this information, how are they going to decipher these information to help them to do more in this area. And one of the very, very popular workshop that we do is called the Publishing 101 workshop, and it talks about the basics of academic publishing. This one is just to introduce the whole academic journal publishing process without not being very specific to a publisher or an editor or a topic. So it's very general, but it's a very quick introduction for our research postgraduate students. And we cover mainly things such as, how do you find the right journal? What do you do when you getting through a peer review? How do you share your works online after publication? And also we look at emerging scholarly communication or research trends, such as publishing open access, how to deal with copyright, and how do you increase your research visibility of your articles or even yourself as a researcher. So these are the kind of tips that we do in this Publishing 101. Okay. Next, I'm going to go into some of the inquiries we received. And by doing this, I would like to share with you how the library responds to such of these inquiries. And some of these inquiries are actually covered in the presentations done by Prof. Chen and Dr. Pan. But this is from the library's perspective, and I thought I would like to share with you how the library cope with such inquiries. And at this point, I would like to invite Kenneth. Kenneth?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi. Yeah, I'm going to invite Kenneth to help do some translation if necessary for all the questions, the individual questions that I have and my responses and our responses to them. So the first one is this question. Please confirm if you have received my previous email about the free of charge publishing of work. This was received by an ex-PhD student, and basically it's this student received an email soliciting their thesis to be published into a book. And so this student asked the library, can we do this? Is this okay? What do you think? Maybe I'll say the second question as well, which is from this author, this journal, this researcher received an email soliciting, asking if they can publish, if a publisher can publish a work in another journal, and so the faculty actually asked the library, can we do this? Is this okay? And actually our paper has already been submitted and published in this journal. Why? Can we republish again? So the library's response to these two are, the first one is, in PolyU, all the copyright of all works produced in PolyU by students and staff belong to the university. So this student really need to check with PolyU if that's possible. And also this student will also need to check and see if the copyright transfer agreement in this publication, what kind of rights do they retain, what kind of rights do they give away, and how would this impact their future plan in terms of in their future academic plans. Yes. And then for the second one, we actually tell the journal, the author that, you really cannot publish in another second journal, because if your paper has already been accepted, you should not do another journal and you cannot publish. But for both of these inquiries, we actually tell them that please do take a look at our checklist that we have to help researchers identify trusted journals. These checklists to help you identify trusted journals can also be used to see if this publisher that's approached you is trustworthy, if it's reliable. Yes. Kenna?
谢谢 Janice。我再建议简单的说明一下，就是有关刚刚的案例的一个简单的回答。如果作为就是理工大学的图书馆，其实在这个两个提问里面，他们的回答是这样子的。第一个提问，他们首先会要求就是研授者他们向大学查询一个出版权。然后第二个方式就是说，他们就是跟那个查看这个 版权的转让，就是那个 transfer agreement， 然后去跟那个出版商一起去发布保留或是说就是那个权利的类型。因为本身每一个出版商它本身的条款都可能会有点不一样。还有最重点的就是刚刚Janice 也提到了，他们会有一个 checklist， 会帮助那些研究者去查看它本身的一些 trusted journal， 就是有高信度的、高可信度的一些期刊的一个 list， 这样子就可以协助那些研究者很清楚的知道应该有哪些出版商是比较可信的。然后第一个问题是有关就是作者一起出版的话，他本身该出版商完成这是不是那个期刊的出版商？但是如果真的碰到有这样子的问题的话，作者是不能在另外一个期刊重新发表他的文章，是因为这样子会违反这个版权法因为你就是那个作者已经跟第一个出版商达成了一个协议，所以说是未能在其他的一些期刊里面再出版他的文章的。这个就是一个简单的翻译重新交回给你 Janice。
Thank you, Kenneth. Yeah, so that is basically what we do. And actually the checklist that we mentioned were also covered, many of the points were actually covered by Prof Chen earlier about how to determine and how to identify a predatory journal. So some of these indicators are in that checklist, and so we use this to try and tell our users that you should really be careful and use these indicators to help you decide what is reputable and what is not reputable. So the third and the fourth inquiry that we received is about journal selection. So how do you decide which journal is better for me or for you? How do I evaluate which level of journal is more acceptable for my article? Usually for such questions, we receive them during our Publishing 101 workshop from our early career researchers. They have just stepped into postgraduate research. They have not started publishing. They do know that there are tools like impact factor and stuff like that to help them evaluate and rank journals. They know that some of these are indicators for them, but yet they still have the problem of, identifying a journal. They still cannot, it's like, they cannot decide, or they don't know how to move on with that, or they have a few other factors, but they do not know which is more important. So what we generally tell them is, look at the aims and scope of the journals, use these to help you. But more importantly, you might also want to use, in addition to the various tools like impact factor and all that sort of thing, to look at number one, to use a couple of other information to help you decide, like, for example, your references. Are your references mainly from several journals? If these are the journals that always appear in your references, are these the journals also suitable for you to publish in? You may also want to check with your supervisor, is this journal okay? Should I try and aim for this journal, or should I try and do that journal? Discuss with your supervisor or even your peers or people within the same team. And finally, I think it's very important for early career researchers to also know their publishing objectives. Is it just getting published? Is it getting published in open access? Or are they trying to get themselves published in specialized journals, or in a specialized journal, or that kind of similar journals? So it's very good for them to have an idea of their strategy. Or do they want to publish in very high impact factor journals? Because if they want to aim high and that's where they want to go, then go for it. But if not, then what are your other objectives? Maybe getting published open access is more important. So I think having all these things in mind will be able to help them better understand how to decide and how to zoom in on the kind of journals that they want to publish in. So as a librarian, we can only try and trigger and try and give them a little bit more information to help them decide. But at the end of it, the researchers themselves need to know which of these factors are more important to them so that they can focus and zoom in. Okay, Kenneth.
谢谢 Janice。其实在这两个提问里面，从图书馆的角度去回答的话，有3个重点。第一个重点就是说，要查看你的参考文件，这些文件是否来自于一些少数的一些期刊，还有最主要就是说，你可能会需要考虑其中发表这些期刊吗？然后另外一个就是说，主要你必须要跟你的主管，就是比方说你是研究者，跟主管就是讨论一下他们在哪里发表文章，这些期刊其实也可以就是考虑发表吗？还有最终一点呢，就是说本身你的出版目标就是好像刚刚提到就是有关的一个 scope 然后还有就是说你或者你需要在那个开放获取去发表这些文章吗？对于这样子的一些想法，还有本身就是你要出版到哪一本期刊的话，这些我就是应该需要去跟你们本身的主管去做一个交流看看想法，还有你往后的一些策略应该怎么去做会更好的。这个就是一些从图书馆的角度去回答的一些答案。重新交给你 Janice。
Thank you， 谢谢你 Kenneth。好 ，Now the next inquiry that we receive very often, and it's about predatory journals. So we received this inquiry, which is, do you think a journal XXX is a predatory journal? How do I identify predatory journals? So I mean, as Prof Chen has also shown us the different kinds of indicators of what exactly is a predatory journal. Some background about this is, I think, as from the library's perspective, the open access business model has changed very quickly, a lot over the last couple of years, and many researchers, or some researchers maybe, are very confused between paying an APC equals to open access, and open access means, or getting published and that's it. So I think this whole entire confusion does not help them at all when it comes to predatory journals, because they think paying APC to this predatory journal or this journal means I get my work published, and we're now in this publish or perish age again, and in PolyU publishing is also very important. So I guess everything put together, they do not know how to identify predatory journals or what journals they can and should not publish in. So for us, we have prepared information in our LibGuides. So we prepared this little very simple guide to explain to them about predatory journals. Like, for example, we explain to them, what are predatory journals, how they can be careful about it. They should also, there are some tools here, for example, the Think, Check, Submit tools, the BIOS list, which was also mentioned in Prof Chen's presentation, and also the DOAJ, the Directory of Open Access Journals. So these are tools to help them identify potentially predatory journals. These are the indicators that we have, for example, that we put out to help them understand what could be possibly red flags, to help them to become more aware. I think researchers these days need to have this sense of awareness. I mean, long ago, we all learn how to evaluate credible information sources. And I think at this point in time, researchers also need to learn how to identify credible publishers of credible journals. And I think very, very, very soon they will know what are some red flags that to help them to become very aware or cynical about such journals, such publishers. Okay, Kenneth, over to you.
好，谢谢。有关刚刚的那个提问，其实在图书馆的角度，理工大学图书馆其实在一个 LibGuides 里面中准备了一些信息，以帮助你一些就是学生或是说研究者了解，就是去评估应该怎么去考虑这些指标。图书馆希望他们可以更意识到他们应该怎么去评估这份期刊，还有用这些指标 成为他们就是说考虑在一些新期刊发表的时候的一些标准所以说这个就是简单的总结了刚刚 Janice 的一个答案
谢谢 Kenneth。最后一题呢，就是 about open access. So the inquiry was about this. We received this inquiry with the university's open access policy for PhD and MPhil thesis. Would this create issues with me trying to publish my work from the PhD thesis in peer-reviewed journals? So let me just give you some background to this question. Recently, actually, PolyU has an open access mandate since 2010. What this requires is all PhD and MPhil thesis, as well as researchers, they need to make open access their work, their research work through perhaps like the institutional repository. So researchers need to submit their final accepted manuscript or a version that is closest to the published version to the institutional repository. By doing that, they can make open access their work. And this year, early this year, the university has gone ahead with this open access policy in great force. They basically got all researchers to please, the last 6 years, if you have not deposited, please deposit your works into the repository. And this has made all the researchers in PolyU become very aware of an open access policy. And because of this, we received this inquiry. And our response to this user is, it's very common for students to reuse their PhD thesis in journals. And in fact, it's very common that they do that. But they should bear in mind, and with open access, it should be, and many publishers are okay, that you have reused your work from a thesis in their journal, even if that thesis was originally in open access. They usually have no issues with that. But there are a couple of things they have to bear in mind, which is a PhD thesis and the journal is written differently. The articles are written differently. The target audience is very different. So they may have to do extensive rewriting for the journal, even though it's a PhD thesis, they do extensive rewriting for the journal. And specifically the journal's aims and scopes in mind, with the journal's aims and scope in mind. And also, they should also check the journal's policy regarding publishing students' thesis, if they're okay with it. So these are a couple of things they should bear in mind, and they should also give credit to the thesis or the work in their journal article. So this is exactly what we told the researcher, that it's okay, to publish open access. In fact, we use this opportunity to explain open access to our researchers, because many researchers are not familiar that there are different ways to make open access. They think that publishing open access is one way, but actually there are other ways, such as the depositing way, which is the green open access, or so this is exactly how we replied the author. Maybe I should let Kenneth explain that question first, or should I explain this as well?
我可以简单的去解释一下。刚刚 Janice 曾经就有一个就是这个提问的背景，就是简单的说明一下，就是理工大学在2010年开始他们要求所有作者将过去6年的出版要放在那个institutional repository， 就是一个机构的全库里面然后其实在这个时间其实有很多不同的一些提问尤其是比方说研究生通常在做法就是希望他可以就是将他们的 thesis 出版到那些期刊里面，但是他们可能会有一些问题，就是他们的做法是怎么样重写他们的博士论文，然后作为期刊发表就是做文章发表。一般来说，其实出版商可能是不会因为学生论文而发表论文有任何的问题尽管这些是开放获取的 open access 但是首先有几个点大家需要注意的。首先就是说学生跟作者在文章中他的论文必须要做就是给一些就是肯定， 还有另外一个就是说，研究生在查看这些期刊，就是关于哪些学生的政策，如果说在网站里面没有的话，投稿就是哪些期刊的编辑还是说你必须要去跟你们的主管做一些查询请就是给大家就是给你们一些建议会更好这个是一个比较简单的一个翻译重新交给你 Janice。
谢谢 Kenneth. So I'm just going to very quickly go through or share with you what open access policies are, what we do in the library to support our authors in open access publishing or open access of their publications. So the first is we have an institutional research archive in PolyU where we support the OA depositing, which means authors can deposit the final accepted manuscript into our archive and we will make it open access. This is commonly known as the green open access route. The library has also established several read and publish agreements with our publishers, with some publishers, and this will support OA publishing, or what we call as gold OA. So our authors, when they publish with this particular publisher, will have a waiver of APC. This again is something that we're trying out, and we want to see how much in addition costs do we have. We want to support our authors to publish their work in gold open access wherever possible. And some researchers are really unaware that there are various options. Like, for example, these two are options. You don't always have to publish gold. You don't always have to pay APC. For example, not every author has the funds to do that. If they don't want to do this, or that journal that they want to publish in is not payable, it doesn't have a APC payable, they can choose the green OA route to make their works open access. So this is what how PolyU supports them. And in our LibGuide, we very clearly state that. So in this part that talks about gold open access, we explain to them what gold open access is, and we tell them that, yes, we know that, there are some certain journals that you want to publish in, but, they do not have the option of going open. So you can always go green, which is go the repository way. And we do this cross reference in both sides. So this is how we support our authors in terms of open access publishing. Okay, with that, I think I've ended my presentation, and thank you. I hope you find this useful.
Okay. Yes, I think it's really helpful. Yeah, we saw the PolyU has done a great job in the scholarly communication guide and give the professor a very good guide. Okay,